Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are unpacking the true scale, the dramatic history, and the incredibly multifaceted identity of the United States of America. We all hear about it constantly, right? But how well do we really understand the mechanics of this massive nation? Well, let's dive right in and deconstruct the USA layer by layer.
So, what exactly makes America the ultimate global superpower? Is it the world's strongest economy? Is it a seemingly invincible military? Maybe it's NASA's mind-blowing leaps in space exploration, or perhaps just the unmatched cultural reach of Hollywood. The truth is, it's not just one thing. It's a really complex web of all these factors. And throughout this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how all these pieces fit together.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll deconstruct the nation across 5 key pillars: geography and vastness, history and governance, the economic engine, nature and biodiversity, and finally, culture, tourism, and lifestyle. Let's kick things off with Section 1, geography and vastness. To truly understand America, you really have to wrap your head around its staggering scale. The U.S. is actually the world's third largest country by both population, at around 347.3 million people, sitting just behind India and China, and by area, covering nearly 10 million square kilometers, right behind Russia and Canada. Geographically, it is perfectly positioned between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. It's divided into 50 states, which includes the mainland states, plus Alaska, and the beautiful island chain of Hawaii. We've also got a federal district, Washington, D.C., serving as the capital, along with 5 major island territories spanning the globe, like Puerto Rico and Guam. Honestly, this massive physical footprint is the literal bedrock of its geopolitical strength. And because of its sheer width, the U.S. actually requires 6 distinct time zones. Just to put that into perspective, if you're tuning in from India, the U.S. East Coast is about 9.5 hours behind you. But as you travel west across the country, from Eastern Standard Time all the way to Hawaii, you lose a full 5 hours. You start with EST in places like New York, and as you move west, you hit Central Time, Mountain Time, Pacific Time, Alaska, and finally Hawaii. Oh, and just to keep things interesting, most of the country practices daylight saving time, so they actually spring their clocks forward an hour every March just to capture a bit more evening daylight. Moving right along to Section 2, History and Governance. The American timeline is basically defined by rapid acceleration. It famously kicks off with Christopher Columbus arriving in the Caribbean in 1492, opening the door to European colonization. Fast forward a bit to July 4th, 1776, when 13 British colonies boldly declared their independence, sparking the American Revolution. Less than a century after that, in 1861, the nation was completely torn apart by a devastating civil war. It was a defining conflict that ultimately abolished slavery and reunited the country. Emerging from all those trials, rapid industrialization pushed the U.S. into the 20th century, where its really decisive roles in World War II and the Cold War absolutely cemented its rise as a global superpower. That rapid history translates directly into its modern governance. The U.S. is a constitutional republic operating on a federal system, meaning power is shared between the national government and the individual states. And the symbols of this identity? They're incredibly iconic. Take the flag, for example. The 13 alternating red and white stripes represent those original 13 colonies, while the 50 white stars on the blue background stand for the 50 current states. Then you have the Great Seal, featuring the bald eagle. If you look closely, it holds an olive branch in one talon, symbolizing peace, and arrows in the other, symbolizing strength. Right above it is the motto E pluribus unum, which translates to this beautiful idea, out of many, one. All right, let's dive into Section 3, the economic engine. So how exactly does a country build such a unique financial landscape? Well, America actually operates on a mixed economy. On one hand, you have robust capitalism. This is the driving force behind their rapid technological innovation, their high productivity, and just immense private wealth. But on the flip side, there's a distinct socialist element where the government plays a really massive active role. The state manages sweeping infrastructure networks, public education, and a highly advanced healthcare system. Now, it's definitely worth noting that while the healthcare system is deeply innovative, boasting some of the best research centers in the world, it's also incredibly costly and faces some pretty significant access challenges. What specific resources are fueling this massive engine? It all starts with the sheer dominance of the US dollar, acting as the world's primary reserve currency. Beyond that, you've got vast natural resources, everything from oil and coal to a massive agricultural output that easily makes the US one of the world's top food exporters. Add in a colossal service sector, and you've got a powerhouse. But you know what? Arguably, their greatest resource is human capital.
This is driven by world-renowned institutions like Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, and MIT. Thanks to that incredibly strong educational framework, the country boasts a 79% national literacy rate, keeping them right at the absolute cutting edge of global research.
Now for Section 4, Nature and Biodiversity.
What's really fascinating here is that the country is just so massive, it's divided into 8 distinct geographic regions experiencing wildly different climates. You've got the tropical, humid warmth of Florida and Hawaii. You've got the beautiful, temperate coastal climates along California. Move inland and you hit the continental Midwest with its hot summers and freezing, snowy winters. Head southwest and suddenly you're in the arid, baking deserts of Nevada and Arizona. Climb the Rockies for freezing mountain climates or head way, way up north to Alaska for a true frigid Arctic experience. It's honestly like having several totally different planets contained within one single border.
To truly grasp these extremes, just look at its elevation. At its highest point, you have Denali in Alaska, towering at an awe-inspiring 20,310 feet above sea level. Contrast that with its lowest point down in California, Badwater Basin in Death Valley, sitting at a scorching 282 feet below sea level. The environmental diversity required to host both of these total extremes in just one country is simply mind-blowing. Beyond the mountains and valleys, the literal lifeblood of the country flows through its waterways. You have massive rivers like the 4,000-plus kilometer Missouri River, the mighty Mississippi, which literally divides the eastern and western halves of the country, and the Colorado River, famous for taking millennia to carve out the Grand Canyon. Add to that the Great Lakes, which are the largest group of freshwater lakes on Earth. And to protect all of these incredible assets, the U.S. has set up over 430 national park sites, including absolute global treasures like Yellowstone, Yosemite, and the Florida Everglades. Finally, Section 5, Culture, Tourism, and Lifestyle. If you're planning a virtual tour, these are the heavy hitters you have to hit. In New York City, you're greeted by the 305-foot Statue of Liberty, which, fun fact, was a beautiful historic gift from France. Over on the West Coast, Los Angeles offers all the glitz, glamour, and movie magic of Hollywood. Head a bit north, and San Francisco boasts the architectural marvel that is the Golden Gate Bridge. Back east, Washington, D.C. is the historic heartbeat of the nation, home to the White House and just countless iconic memorials. And of course, you absolutely cannot forget the neon-lit desert oasis of Las Vegas or the magical, sprawling theme parks of Orlando. But the culture isn't just about places. It's about how Americans celebrate, and most importantly, what they eat. The festival scene is incredibly diverse. We're talking everything from the vibrant, colorful parades of Mardi Gras in New Orleans to the stunning visual spectacle of the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, all the way to the world-famous Coachella Music Festival out in California. And the food? It perfectly reflects this massive melting pot. You have iconic, hearty classics like cheeseburgers, hot dogs, and slow-cooked barbecue ribs sitting right alongside comfort foods like mac and cheese or a rich, creamy clam chowder. And to finish it all off, a perfect slice of traditional cinnamon-spiced apple pie. Now, if this explainer has inspired you to pack your bags, here is some highly practical advice for visitors, especially if you're tackling that roughly 12,000-kilometer direct flight from India. First up, the peak tourist season generally runs from March to August. Once you arrive, there are a few key cultural norms you really need to remember. Tipping your server at restaurants isn't just polite, it's highly expected and valued. Also, smoking in public indoor places is strictly prohibited almost everywhere. Lastly, Americans place a very high value on personal space, so just be mindful of maintaining a polite, comfortable distance when you're out and about. We have covered a massive amount of ground today, from staggering geography and rapid historical shifts to economic powerhouses and incredibly vibrant cultural festivals. So, before we wrap up, I want to turn this over to you. Which part of the American experience fascinated you the most? Was it the sheer diversity of the landscapes, the complexity of its massive economy, or maybe that rich cultural tapestry? Take a moment to think about it, because truly understanding a superpower is all about seeing how these distinct, moving pieces fit perfectly together. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep exploring.